Hey guys, this week we'll be doing something a little different. We'll be learning how to jungle from a mid lane main. We do want to be upfront that this guide will be incredibly biased towards laners and will make no effort to hide that. That information might make you hesitant to watch, but different perspectives from other roles can actually make you better at your own. At some point, only studying and playing your own role will have diminishing returns for how much you can improve. There's only so many paths and timings that you can learn. This is why the best players in the world, such as Faker, are generally very good at multiple roles. They understand that League is a team game, and knowing how to best work with your teammates can have exponential results. So we've asked one of our challenger mid lane mains, Hector, to tell us his views on how jungle should be played. Let's get into it. So your first mission is to always play for your lanes and never for yourself. There's no point being ridiculously fed as a jungler if none of your lanes ever have priority and they're always losing. You can't do anything that way. Conversely, if all your lanes are always winning, you can still look to invade the enemy jungle or take dragons, regardless of how ahead or behind you are. Your second mission is to stop tunnel visioning on your levels. Season 10 introduced a meta where junglers are falling incredibly far behind their lanes in levels. To Hector, this changed absolutely nothing about how this role should be played. He compares it to how the support role functions. When playing around an Alistar, does it matter whether that Alistar is level 6 or level 12? Not really. The difference in levels won't change that Alistar will press W, Q, and then ult to tank some damage. Similarly, is there any difference between a level 3 and a level 18 Elise ganking a lane? Again, not really. They'll both walk in the lane, throw cocoon, and then their teammate will finish off the kill. This is clearly an extreme example, but hopefully you get the point. This ties into mission 1 of always helping your team first. Skipping jungle camps to ensure your teammates' success will yield better results in the long run. Besides, if you're successfully helping your team, then you'll be caught up in levels because of lane and kill experience. We're definitely not telling you to be completely selfless and stay at level 3 the whole game. Your final mission is to base your champion picks with scaling and personal comfort in mind instead of placing too much thought into what's meta at the moment. There's a divide between what you should play in Low Elo and High Elo. In Grandmasters and up, you should play stuff like Jarvan, Elise, and Rek'Sai. This is because League is an incredibly snowbally game when played correctly. Abusing early game junglers to ensure that your team gets ahead at the start of the game is very impactful in High Elo. But every Elo below that doesn't know how to properly close out games. For example, let's look at one of the games Hector played. His Yasuo died at level 2 and he looks to cover mid. Unfortunately, he misclicks his polymorph on his own champion instead of Katarina getting himself killed. That's a pretty brutal mistake. Then, him and Yasuo fight randomly and both of them end up dying again. If he was playing something like Jarvan this game, it'd be completely over. Botched early games like this are impossible to come back from as an early game jungler. But low elo players don't know how to close out games and throw their leads constantly. With patient play, Hector eventually came back into the game, abusing the enemy's mistakes. Then he ended up hard carrying because he had scaled and was playing something he is extremely comfortable on. You probably noticed that missions 1 and 2 may seem to contradict mission 3. The important bit about mission 3 is that you only play scaling champions in low elo, again meaning below grandmasters. There's no real distinction between early game junglers and scaling junglers because people die to the most random ganks regardless of what champion you're playing. Therefore, having that safety net of being able to carry late game if the game does go poorly is quite nice. Alright, that's it for our missions. Let's review a full game of Hector playing his jungle Lulu in gold to platinum MMR. This specific game begins in a way many of you are probably used to. His top lane gets ganked and bot lane loses 2v2 all before he's even hit level 3. After his initial clear, Hector now has two options. He can go top or mid here. It's highly likely that Set or Lee placed a ward in the top lane brush after killing Darius. Meanwhile, the enemy Rumble is hard shoving into LeBlanc in mid. As a mid lane main, Hector has an obligation to punish this brain-dead gameplay. Easily securing the kill, he looks towards the bot side scuttle afterwards but encounters Lee. This is a bit specific, but Lee is kind of weak early and Hector knows he definitely wins 1v1. Unfortunately, bot lane died and has no priority and mid lane has teleport. He just needs to concede this scuttle as much as it pains him to do so. As he heads toward the top scuttle, Darius is randomly winning the 1v1, so he goes to clean up the set. Now he can at least take one of the scuttles and look to base. He also makes sure that his Darius could cleanly shove his wave. If he hadn't been able to, Hector would have gone to help. Off of his recall, he paths mid, but Rumble is clearly taking his base timing at the moment, so Hector clears his raptors. Now bot lane is likely to recall off this lane state as well, but he still chooses to path down there in case they were to stay. That possibility is more important to him than wasting time on Krugs. With that plan not working out, he moves back to mid, but as LeBlanc misses her timing to go in. Since the wave is shoving into Rumble, waiting any longer here is unlikely to yield any results, so Hector chunks him a bit before very obviously pathing towards top. Somehow, Darius is losing quite handily, so Hector just relieves some pressure by chunking Set out of lane. As he glances towards mid, it's clear his LeBlanc wants to play really aggressively at the moment. Pathing towards her to potentially counter gank Lee Sin is a good option. But this Set is a madman staying at low HP. Top is incredibly volatile at the moment, so it does take priority over mid. This time, he trades quite a bit of his own health to chunk Set really low. And what do you know, Set continues to stay at low health. Once again, he goes and he manages to score a kill. We want to point out that the last camp Hector cleared was at 5 minutes into the game. It's been nearly 2 minutes since he cleared a single jungle camp. As a challenger Smurf in this Elo range, you'd think that he'd want to prioritize himself and look to carry the game alone. But no, as a laner, this is exactly how he wants this role to be played. In the early game, he wants his junglers to essentially be a roaming support. That being said, he did choose to clear his camps here because his LeBlanc was and there was nothing he could do to impact either lane at the moment. But the second Set gets back to lane, he's already ganking him again. Darius decides to stand still the whole fight, resulting in a 1-for-1, but this was still an overall positive gank. Seeing that Lee did Dragon while he camped top, Hector looks to counter jungle Raptors but immediately changes his course of action once he sees Rumble mid. We made a point about how he didn't come mid before because LeBlanc was That was when he was level 4. He just managed to level twice, so it's less likely that Rumble can turn this gank around now that Hector has his ultimate available. He helps her shove out the wave afterwards before recalling. Now, while it didn't fully crash, since it's so close to the enemy tower, this will for sure bounce back to her. Unfortunately, this bot lane continues to lose the 2v2 by themselves. This type of situation is precisely why we tell you to pick scaling and comfort picks. As a scaling champion, you will eventually become strong enough to take matters into your own hands. Champions you're comfortable on also let you know exactly when a kill opportunity is present and not let free kills get away. Well, except this Nami. Okay, because Hector is a laner, he really needs this following information to be pointed out. He leaves the wave alone because of the even minion rule. Since the waves are the same size, it should push towards Aphelios because the waves are fighting closer to the enemy side of the lane. But he wasn't accounting for the way he chased Nami. It caused the caster minions to frontline, meaning that this wave will push towards Tristana. The whole point here being that he should have just shoved that wave, instead he let it shove into Trist. By this point you've hopefully seen Hector's entire game plan. When there's no gank opportunity, he farms. But the second he sees any potential to help his lanes, he immediately goes to assist. Helping his lanes this much, specifically mid, means that LeBlanc always has priority. Therefore, any fight Hector looks to take will always be at a numbers advantage. And again, we want to reiterate that he's not playing to be carried. Once the laning phase ends, you can start asserting dominance with all the kills and assist gold that you've earned. This is also when you can start accelerating your farming. In the early game, it takes forever to kill camps, but once you have items, you can quickly kill them and not lose a lot of time. Following his own guidelines, he was able to carry this game with 90% KP and being 2 levels higher than his solo laners, despite how selflessly he played early game. To wrap things up, we're not telling you to play this specific style of jungle. This is clearly a very biased guide from someone who wants his jungler to sit mid 24/7. The important part is to understand what your laners actually want from you. We just made this guide to perhaps influence your decision making. You've seen firsthand what giving up a camp or two to help your team can do in the long run. By the way, we released some crazy guides over at SkillCapped which are exclusive only to our subscribers. We have over 700 guides covering everything you need to know to rapidly improve. We also send our challengers into Elo Hell every week to see how they climb out of the most extreme scenarios with the worst teammates imaginable. all wrapped up into courses that you can watch right away. Oh, and if you don't significantly improve while using skill capped, you get a full refund. So, what are you waiting for? Sign up today and escape Elo hell. Alright, that's it for today. Thanks for watching.